Chapter 2. The New Devil on the Block Part 2. How about a favorite movie? I don't really have one. How could you not have a favorite movie? Don't most people have one? Do you have one? Well, but I have more important things to do than watching movies. Like what? Like training. Naruto found himself walking backwards, hands behind his head and a sunny smile on his face as he escorted Riz to school. It was only right that he did so. Escorting her to school, that is. She had not only saved him, but had been at his house anyways. Plus, this gave him the opportunity to get to know the beautiful and intriguing redhead who had reincarnated him as a devil a little bit better. Training. Riz looked vaguely curious. Naruto nodded his head. Ever since I was younger, I've always trained myself in order to grow stronger. He grinned widely as he held out an arm and flexed his muscle while placing a hand over his bicep. And I like to think I'm pretty strong. You do seem to be very fit, Riz commented. Is that because of your training too? Pretty much, the blonde confirmed as they entered the school gates. All around them, students stopped what they were doing so they could stare at the strange duo. Everyone seemed shocked that the new student with the ridiculously bright blonde hair was in the company of the red-haired beauty, Riz Gremory. Not that Naruto cared. He pretty much locked out everyone around them to save the girl in front of him. Why do you train so much? Naruto blinked as he thought about her question. Then he shrugged his shoulders. Habit. Mostly. I've been training for so long that it's pretty much a part of me. It just doesn't feel right for me to slack off on my training for any reason. Even if he had no purpose to get stronger, he had been training to grow stronger for so long that it was pretty much ingrained into his psyche. I see. Alright, so about this. What's your favorite color? My favorite color? Riz blinked, then smiled. Blue. Really? Riz nodded. And what about you? What's your favorite color? Orange, Naruto announced proudly and loudly. Orange is the color of the gods. Only someone as wise and gracious as the gods could have possibly come up with such a divine color. Riz giggled at him, causing Naruto to grin widely at the girl, and caring that she was laughing at him. Though, I will admit, I really like red too. Do you? Riz calmed down from her giggles and took a strand of her hair between her ring and index finger, twirling it around. So you really like my hair? Then Naruto nodded seriously. It reminds me of my mother. Riz perked up. Your mother? Naruto hummed. I never really got to meet my mom, but I do know a few things about her that other people told me. She was a major tomboy when she was younger. And because she had really bright red hair and a pudgy face, she earned the nickname Tomato when she was in school. Back then, I was told she had beaten up all the boys who made fun of her and they ended up giving her the nickname the Red Habanero because of her red hair and fierce temper. Riz held a hand to her mouth and giggled. She really does sound like a tomboy. Naruto grinned proudly. Yep. Anyways, because of how much people made fun of her back then, Mom really hated her hair. However, all that changed thanks to my dad. A small, nostalgic smile appeared on Naruto's face as he remembered the story his mom had told him the one and only time they had ever met. Mom was a very prominent person where I lived. I suppose you could say she was sort of like you. Riz looked at him curiously. She was the heir to a very powerful clan called the Uzumaki clan. Clan of the Whirling Tides. I think they were called that because of where they originally lived, Naruto said. You see, before the Uzumaki clan was mostly wiped out save for a few scattered remnants, they lived on an island that had a natural defense of dozens of whirlpools. Because of that, it was very difficult for attacking forces to invade them. I see. Riz smiled at his helpful answer. Please continue with your story, Naruto-kun. Right, well, Mom was the last surviving member of the Uzumaki clan and this made her a target for a rival village who wanted to hold her for ransom. They ended up infiltrating the village and kidnapping my mom. Riz found herself getting sucked into the story. What happened when they were taking her away from the village? Mom managed to leave a trail made from strands of her hair. And the one who followed them and managed to rescue her was my dad. Your dad? Yes. Back when they were in school, Mom didn't actually like my dad. He chuckled a bit. She thought he looked flaky. Riz giggled as Naruto continued his story. But on that day, Mom's opinions about dad changed. You see, he not only rescued her, but he told her that the reason he had been able to find her was because of her beautiful red hair. He was the only person to ever compliment her hair color. After that day, Mom fell in love with my dad and decided that she loved her hair too. She even went so far to call her hair the red thread of fate because it brought her and dad together. That sounds like such a romantic story. Even Riss was prone to dreamy sighs after a tale like that. It was like one of those classic fairy tales people read about in fantasy romance novels. Is that why you like my hair so much? Because it reminds you of your mom? Not really. Naruto shrugged. Your hair color is a lot different than mom's. They may both be red, but hers was a lot lighter, while yours is more of a crimson. He grinned as he placed his hands behind his head and looked up at the sky. I just think you have really beautiful hair. He looked back down at Rias, his grin widening. That's all. I see. Rias looked away, causing the blonde to tilt his head curiously. Had he said something wrong? He thought girls liked it when they were given compliments. He looked over to where Rias was looking and saw the perverted boy he had tried to save last night staring at them, leaning in, and ignoring the loud noises coming from the people around him when he did this. Naruto whispered, "Did you reincarnate him too?" Giving one last look at Issei, Rias smiled and responded by whispering in Naruto's ear, "I did." "Gotcha." Naruto nodded and leaned back. "I just wasn't sure. I don't really remember much of what happened after." He trailed off for a second, his hand going towards where the large hole in his chest had been. "I understand." Ria stopped after they entered the school building and turned to face him. She grabbed the hand Naruto had placed against his chest and moved it away so she could place her own hand there. Startled gasps emerged from those around them. Naruto ignored them as easily as he ignored the glares he used to get in his former home. "You really are a kind person, aren't you?" she continued, causing Naruto to blush with a sheepish smile. You wouldn't think so from how he used to act when he was younger, but Naruto was never very good at accepting praise. Worrying about someone you don't even know, even someone you seem to enjoy playing pranks on, that was his own fault. Naruto defended himself. He and his friends were just leaving themselves wide open like that. "I couldn't not prank them. You know," Rias giggled. "It seems I've gained a little prankster in my peerage." Naruto blinked. "Another time," Ria said. "School is starting soon." She removed the hand from his chest and smiled as she backed away. "I will send someone for you after class." "Okay, Naruto-kun." "Yeah, that's fine, I guess." Naruto smiled as he waved Rias off. "I'll see you later, Rias." Naruto yawned as he sat down in his seat. Class was about to start and he was already wanting to go to sleep. Man, Shikamaru was right when he said learning was troublesome. Closing his eyes, Naruto placed his hands behind his head and leaned back in his chair to rest. He could easily afford a few more moments of shut-eye. It wasn't like the teacher could say anything. Despite what many people might assume, he actually had pretty good grades. Sure, it wasn't a 4.0 average, but 3.1 was pretty damn good too. Back in Konoha, everyone had called him the dead last because he sucked at theory and reading assignments. That wasn't going to happen here. He wouldn't be thought of as an idiot in this world, even if it meant he had to study. Q shudder. Aheo, Naruto-san. Cracking an eye open, Naruto found a handsome young man with short blonde hair and grey eyes standing in front of him. He was wearing the standard school uniform and his blazer was fully buttoned. He sort of reminded Naruto of Sasuke in the way that all the girls seemed to think he was the hottest thing since the creation of fire jutsu. Kiba. Naruto gave the boy a bit of a lazy look. What's up? The only reason Naruto didn't have the same problems with him that he had with Sasuke in the beginning, aside from the small fact that he had outgrown those kinds of petty thoughts, was because Kiba was actually very friendly. He acted nothing like Sasuke did back when they were in the academy. In other words, he wasn't a complete jerk with a 50-foot pole shoved up his ass. Not much. Kiba sat down at a desk next to Naruto's. "I heard that Bunchao has talked to you." "Bunchao Ria-sama," Kiba added when he saw Naruto's confused look. At the sound of the red-haired beauty's name, Naruto's face lit up in recognition. "I was told she talked to you this morning." "She did." The blonde eyed his somewhat friend with the sort of casual awareness one has when they're hearing something interesting enough to pay attention to, but not enough that they were totally into what was being said. "I didn't know you knew her." "Bunchao, the president of the occult club." which I'm a part of, Kiba informed him with a friendly smile. Ah, Naruto nodded his head. That would explain it. From the words Kiba spoke, Naruto easily deduced that the other blonde was also a devil, and this research club was likely some kind of front for Rias and other devils to gather or something. Naruto had to thank Kakashi sensei and Ero Senin for pounding some common sense into his head. He would have never been able to figure something like this out if they had not helped him. I was told that you were joining the club and that I should take you to the clubhouse after school so you can be informed of what we do. Sounds good. Naruto closed his eyes. Now be a pal and wake me when class starts. Haha. Kiba sweet dropped a bit. Sure thing. Naruto stopped and cast an annoyed glare as the pervert, Issei, he remembered the kid was called, came running up to him with a crazed look in his eyes. It wasn't that the kid was talking to him that bothered him, so as much as it was the fact that he had things to do and places to be. Besides, Naruto already had a hunch about what the kid could want. The brown-haired, slightly insane-looking member of the Hantei Saningumi grabbed Naruto by the collar of his blazer. The unusual gleam in his eyes was not doing the pervert any favors right now. You remember Yuma-chan, right? Right, Yuma. Naruto slapped Issei's hands away and adopted a thinking pose. After a second, he snapped his fingers and looked at Issei. You're not talking about a chick with black hair, violet eyes and black angel wings, are you? Yes. Yes, Issei was crying tears of joy at the knowledge that someone finally remembered the girl who had killed him. That's exactly who I'm talking about. Nope. Sorry. Never heard of her before. Issei looked at Naruto in shock as the blonde began walking away. Moving quickly, Issei ran to catch up with Naruto as the spiky-haired blonde caught up with Kiba, who had waited for him at the end of the hall after Issei grabbed him. What do you mean you don't remember? You were there. Naruto gave Issei a bright smile. I have no idea what you're talking about. Wah. But that's now. If you'll excuse me, Naruto interrupted. I have somewhere I need to be. Naruto could hardly contain his snickering as he left behind a dejected Issei, the last he had seen of the boy before disappearing outside of the school building. His shoulders had been slumped and there had been a look of depression on his face. In most cases, he would have actually felt bad about doing a prank like this, but the over-exaggerated expression on Issei's face just made it too funny for him to feel guilty about. Really, that boy was just far too easy to prank. It almost made him feel bad for pranking someone who was obviously so gullible. Almost. That wasn't very nice. Kiba did not sound very displeased despite his words. Naruto got the feeling his fellow blonde was amused. Naruto shrugged, snickering a bit. I couldn't help myself. The perv was just begging to be pranked. Is it because Issei-san is a pervert that you prank him? Asked a curious Kiba. Not really. Naruto shook his head. I mean, sure, it's always amusing to prank perverts because they tend to have stronger reactions than most, but it's mostly because he just leaves himself so open. If he wasn't as naive and easy to fool as he was, I wouldn't have nearly as much fun pranking him like that. I see. Kiba laughed. He led his fellow blonde outside, and Naruto noticed immediately that they were walking towards one of the other buildings located within the academy grounds. Is the occult club not in the main building? He asked curiously. We have our own building, Kiba told him, pointing towards the large school building they were heading to. Naruto immediately noticed that it was different from the main one, older, and had a slightly different style to its architecture. Despite its obvious age, it was still very well maintained. This used to be the main school building, but when the new one was built, Bunchao was able to acquire it for the occult club. That makes sense. If they were devils, they would need a place away from prying eyes to do whatever it was devils did. And just what did devils do if they didn't sacrifice virgins? Babies and puppies anyways? Hopefully, he will find out.